recording? Great. Fantastic. So I think we're ready to start the first masterclass for Bach and beyond. Even though we've done this all year with Zoom and stuff, there's always some things that need to be worked out. So I think we got it now. Should have a high quality feed. We won't be able to hear Mr. SETZER until Cameron is done playing, and then we'll get some the comments going. But I just, even though Phil can't say anything right now, I just want to warmly welcome you to this. Thank you for doing this. Philip SETZER is one of the big influences in my life as a violinist, and I have known him for almost 25 years now, and one of the most incredible mentors you can have as a violinist. So I think we'll have a really great afternoon with him. We'll hear three performers today. Cameron Jeppson playing the first movement of Prokofiev's second concerto, and then Ferry is playing two movements of Bach, D minor partita, and Natalie Amano is playing the first movement of the Prokofiev solo sonata. I'll try to help with time, keeping us on schedule. And if anybody is on the Zoom link, other than Mr. SETZER, if you can just mute and kind of stay muted until we get to possibly a Q&A situation, that would be great. So let's welcome Cameron and Lair G for the first movement of Prokofiev.
Great. Now I can't hear Cameron, but can you hear me?
So now can you hear Cameron? Or can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. That was easy.
All right.
I expected a little more.
Okay, I hear an echo of myself, but I'll try to ignore that. Hi, Cameron. Bravo. Sounds really, really good. Just see if we get rid of that echo would be nice, but I know that's hard to do.
How do you unpin? Anybody know how to unpin?
How's that? Oh, we'll deal with it. It's all right. I hear myself twice. Then I can tell when I hear the second version of it, I can tell if what I said was right.
I will mute you when we're not. I will mute us when we're not talking.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a little difficult because you're very small on my screen, and so I can't really, I can see a little bit of what you're doing, but I mean, generally, it sounds really, really good. You're making it too easy for me. I don't have that much to complain about. But I'd like to talk about a couple of things, one of which is right in the beginning. And if you think about this opening is, I think, deceptively difficult to make it work, because you start. I mean, how many concertos do you know that start with the violin all alone like that? I think that obviously the first three notes are a G minor chord, right? But what I think needs more attention is the chromaticism that happens around the D after that. So the da 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 da. Sorry, that's my voice. That's not my out of tune singing. Da 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 ya da dum. I think something needs to be done, maybe slightly with the timing. Also, I think I would try to play that a little bit more painfully, a little bit more expressively, that part of it each time. Dee da 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 ya da dum, da dee da da dum, dee da dee. That interval also, the E flat to the F sharp. I don't sense enough sort of the shadow behind this opening, or the pain that's behind this opening. And I don't think you have to play the G minor triad any differently. I think you're playing it. It's very simple and beautiful, but maybe you could do a little more with the faster notes, and especially the chromaticism. Do you want to just try that once? I won't go back and forth too much, but I just want to get. I think the opening could be better. Good. Yeah. I think what you did differently, at least from the way it sounded, was that the eighth notes had a little bit of vibrato on them. I think the first time they were a little bit dull. Like you have the open G, there's no vibrato, and then you did da da da, and then T da da. Rather than, I would play it more simply da 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 dee, and maybe on the D I would start to vibrate through the eighth notes. That would be more, I think, that would bring the detail out more. You want to just try that one more time that way? Yeah, that's good. And the other interesting thing about the phrase and the bowing, which I think is original, is the da 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 dum, da 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 ya da dum. When you change the bow on it, make it more than just a bow change, but that that you give a little bit of stress to that. So we know we have no idea where the downbeat is really when you start this piece. We always think that everybody knows the piece, but just imagine listening to it. You have no idea. Is it in 3? Is it in 4? Is it in 5? Because you bow the first 5 beats in one bow, right? So give a little bit, not an accent, but just your intention when the E flat is on the bar line, I think. So maybe now that the last 2 notes of the first measure are a little too loud. They're calling attention to themselves too much. But I would just do it with the vibrato and the finger action on that, and make sure you're not dropping off too much with the bow. But then give a little bit more the second time when you have the E flat when it's on the downbeat. So there's a little bit of mystery along with the pain of it. One more time, and then we'll go on to something else. Good. Good. Yeah, I mean maybe the third measure is a little too loud now, but that's the idea. Yeah. And you can play around with it. I mean, but I think the opening it should be complex. It shouldn't be too simple, right? There are places in this movement where the violin is asked to play soft, and people rarely do that. But I think it's okay to do it because you're up high. The orchestration is very light at those places. I'm talking about, where I'm talking about, but just for the audience's sake, when you have right in the beginning at number 4, yeah, it could be you could spike it a little bit so that I hear it, that it pops out, but I think try to stay pianissimo for those first 2 bars, and then there's one later too where you have it's the same thing at 23. There's a place where you put on the mute, isn't there? Where am I thinking of? Oh yeah, at 18. That's the other. Yeah, that one I think you could play with a very light bow, but like one hair, so it has this weird sort of I don't know, fantastic kind of sound. Fantastic in the sense of fantasy, not fantastic in the sense of a fantastic sound. But can we try that sound right there with the piano at 18? And yeah, like one hair bow and really on the fingerboard, and just make it kind of shivery and shimmery, but not too clear. Yeah. So I think you could actually get away with playing with less bow. Try it once, just playing up at the tip with about 4 inches of bow, and give the accent in the beginning and a lot of left hand articulation, but not too much bow. What's I don't have the piano part in front of me. What is the orchestra marked here? What is the piano marked here? What's the dynamic?
I don't have one.
Okay.
Piano at least, maybe less.
Yeah, let's try both of you really, really pianissimo. Let's just see if it works. Yeah. I mean, you might feel like it's not big enough for a concerto, but I think it's okay if these three places in this movement are really tiny, and then when you open up, it makes the, like places where you're using a lot of bow or like dum bum 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 fortissimo and a lot of bow and right up on close to the bridge, then it'll make that even louder. I had one suggestion which you could try. Try once starting the second theme at 6 up bow and doing the whole thing backwards. Because you end up on an up bow on the E flat at the end, which just always sounds really uncomfortable. But just try it once. Just try it once now and just see how it feels. Yeah. I don't know. How's that feel? It sounded good.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to get used to it, but it's
Yeah, I mean, it
fun.
feels backwards, but the ending is nice that way. I also do a different fingering at the end. 4 before 7, I'm in third. What am I? I go to third position on the F sharp, and then A with the second finger, and then I go up on the D string for the D. Slide up to the D, to the I'm sorry, to the E natural on the D string. Dee da dee da ya da. So I finish on the D string. Maybe just try from the E flat with that fingering, just the high E flat. See how it feels. You'll be up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before 7.
Yeah, and you'll be up bow here, right? If you do my thing. Yeah. Good. What I would say, if you do that fingering, don't slide up to the F sharp though. Save it for the E. You can go to the F sharp on the A string, but just maybe leave a tiny bit of space. So I don't want to hear 2 slides. But anyway, you can do your other fingering and bowing also. But the end of that is so nice when you end on the down bow, I think. The other way, it's a little like going to the frog, In terms of general things, and we talked a little bit about the pianissimo and the fortissimo to make sure that we really have a sense of dynamics. It's always difficult with a concerto because you don't want to play too soft and get overshadowed by the orchestra. But on the other hand, if you're not careful, if you don't establish at some point within a short amount of time, or let's say certainly within a section of a movement, a really soft place, then your loud place doesn't seem that loud. It's what the great cellist Rostropovich, what he talked about as mezzo forte playing, that we tend to play in the middle too much. So even when you're doing concerto, don't, especially when you're up high, Prokofiev was very smart about it, and you can always play more if you're playing in the hall and somebody hears you, or maybe the orchestra's just too loud, right? It's because if Prokofiev was listening, he'd say, no, the violinist is fine, I want the violin soft, but the orchestra's too damn loud. So you can always fight for that. The other thing I was going to say, 2 things about just looking at you as you're standing and how you're playing. I think there were some times when you were playing where you closed your stance, like your feet were close together. And it's hard to tell on Zoom, to be honest. I can't, I've been teaching a lot for 15 months on Zoom, but still it's difficult to tell sometimes about sound production and openness of sound. But I do hear a difference even on Zoom. If you close up your stance, and by closing up the stance, I mean your feet a little too close together. Also, the violin sometimes goes down a little bit. I have the same problem. I see video of myself playing, and especially when I'm in the quartet, and the violin tends to go down, and I lose volume, but also you lose some color. So, then you would come up sometime, the violin would come up, and I could hear it immediately. And I think it probably made a difference in the hall as well. So, and it's silly. It's like one of the most elementary things that we learn in the beginning is hold your violin up, hold your violin. Yeah, but as we get older, we kind of get lazy a little bit sometimes. But especially when you're playing a concerto, where you need all the help you can get, and when you've got those big tunes up high, that gorgeous second theme. You want to be up with the violin. The stance thing was interesting to me. I saw somebody at a master class, this was years ago, and I heard this person had a habit of putting her feet together and then opening her, the stance, and then feet together and then feet apart. And it had nothing to do with the music. It was just kind of like a habit. She didn't. When I pointed it out to her, she had no idea that she was doing it. But I noticed every time her feet came together that the sound kind of went like that, went inside. And then when she opened the stance again, the sound would go like that. And I think it has something to do with the body tightening slightly if your feet are closer, because you have to hold yourself from falling over. You're not aware of it when you're playing, but just make sure. And I like motion. I like that you're shifting your weight. Like when you're on the G string, you come over a little bit onto your right foot, which I think is great. And when you're up high, you go a little bit back to your left foot. So that's really good. You don't want to be the opposite of that. Otherwise on G string, if you're way back like this, then you've got to go like this to get over there, and also you're twisting your arm all around. So I think generally your setup is really, really good. I would just make sure that you're open, and also especially if you're nervous. You didn't sound like you were nervous at all, but I mean, we all get nervous. The tendency is to kind of close in, fold in a little bit, and try to maintain more control, like hold on to the stick, hold on the bow harder, hold on to the violin harder, clamp down a little, with your neck. All those things, which come kind of naturally if we're scared, are all working against you, right? So you want to do exactly the opposite. You want to use more bow. You want to open up. You want to make yourself, literally more vulnerable in the sense of opening your shoulders, violin up. And let go of the bow, let go of the left hand, let go with your chin. Just force yourself. Move your head away from the violin just to break that tension. If you watch video of David Oistrakh play, the great violinist, I'm sure you've seen things on YouTube. Every time he comes to like a trill or a long note where he can, he'll take his head away from the violin and kind of just break the tension in his neck. And honestly, Cameron, I don't think that you're a tight player. I don't see a lot of tension there. So I don't want you to get self-conscious about it. It's also for the class, for people to hear this sort of approach to it. But I do think for me it helps a lot even if I just think of nothing else but staying up and using more bow and trying to let go, not to hold on so tight with either hand or my head holding the violin, or my shoulder coming up, that sort of thing. I'm sure you've heard all this before, but I think the reason it's so hard is because in a way it goes against our instincts of survival. When if something scares you, you fold in, you protect yourself, right? And we actually have to try to do the opposite to calm down and make it work. So, but as I said, it's not. I'm not saying this because I thought you were really tight or anything. It's just something to keep in mind, and for yourself, and also like if you're teaching now or when you start teaching, it's something that'll hopefully help you help your students. So That's the point of it.
Hang on.
Good.
Phil, I'm going to give you the 5-minute warning.
Okay. Let me see if there's anything else in the passages. There's a lot of slurred passages in this piece, right? I couldn't really, again, I'd love to be there on stage where I could really see, but I think that you could probably lift your fingers a little bit more from what I could see and hear. I'm thinking of a passage, for instance, like at 8, the triplets and then the 30 seconds. But even in the da da pa pa bi da pa pa ba da pa, so that you have a nice articulation with the bow, but also the left hand is the notes are lifting, getting out of the way, and maybe a little bit more vibrato. I use vibrato in passages as a way of keeping my hand loose. You can't hear vibrato on notes that go by that quickly, but the difference, if I practice something, even for instance, like at 9, we have da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum, bop-beep, bop-beep-da-da-da-da. If I were to practice that slurred, I think the tendency would be that the left hand would be doing all of the energy with the bow and not so much with the left hand. So I want to make sure that you've got both, because that's when it really pops. That's when it really sounds great, whether it's loud or slurred or soft or whatever. But could we just try at 8 through 9, and then we're going to have to stop. But I just want to see to watch that. Good. Now, when you get to 9, open up your stance. Right? This is what one place is. You're coming into 9. Make sure your feet are open and you come up, so that 9 is going to be even more than that. That was really great. But just go into 9 and think of that. Like really open up there. I'm sorry. All right, go into it though. I want to see it change as you're going up. So maybe go back 5 bars. Yeah, that's great. It should be easier too to play in that, when you're up like that. It sounds fantastic. It sounds really strong, and it's not just that it's louder, but it just has the color, all the color that you want. And if you're down a little bit, you lose that. So use it when you want to be soft, when you want it to be covered. Then that's it's a tool certainly to use the folding in, but when the music opens up, even the second theme, even though it's not loud, you want that to be open and you want it to be generous. And having been fortunate to hear Oistrakh play when I was a kid, that was the word that I would use seeing him live, was that with this generosity of his personality, but also his sound. It was just like this incredible gift that he just gave to the audience. And he didn't move around that much. He didn't put on a show or anything, but it was just, oh God, that sound was just amazing. But you got it there. That sounded really fantastic at 9. So just be a little more aware of that, I think. But really excellent playing and very musical. The second themes were gorgeous. Whichever bowing you do with it, it's fine. But I hope I'll meet you sometime and hear you in person. But thank you for playing. Okay, are we doing Bach now? Is Bach next? Yeah.
Can we have her move a little closer? Just so,
Yeah, that would be good.
yeah, but I guess. Let me check to make sure.
It's good. I can hear.
It's good? Okay. Go ahead. I think it would be better if we ask him to mute. Because
You want me unmuted?
mute,
Oh.
please. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I could see her on the gallery. Brava, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Um, well, why don't we talk about the Gigue first? Is that okay? Just, I think in general in this movement, it could be a little bit lighter. I know it's the end of these first four movements, and we got, but we do have the Chaconne coming up, which is the really big movement. I mean, in every way, probably of all music. So I think this movement could dance a little bit more and just be a little bit more fun. So I know it's not fun to play in a class like this, but you know what I mean. It's just in your approach to it. I just wonder. I think the tempo is okay, but maybe if you thought of just playing like a half of a tick slower, and just a little bit lighter, and more, just give it a little bit more of that feeling of a dance, where especially when you get into the 16th notes. I think you'd have a little more time to make you're making music with it, but it just seems the music making seems a little bit rushed, and then technically you get a little bit uncoordinated between your hands. Like your left hand is fine and your right hand is fine, but they're not exactly coordinated. And I think it's just one of the tempo is a little bit uncomfortable, slightly. But you would just try it maybe again, just a tiny bit slower and a little bit more, I don't know. I guess fun is the only way I can say it, but go for the dance. Good. Yeah. How does that feel?
It feels better. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's the second time you did it now, so you're a little more relaxed. But still, I think it's a better approach, and not try to play it too forte either. Um, I would also say you could do a little bit more of a little bit clearer phrasing at times, like, um, bum, ba, ba, dum, bum, ba, dum, bum, bum, be, da, 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 dum, bum, ba. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but so that last eighth note of the first measure really belongs to the second measure. I know you're thinking of it that way, but you those are the places where I start to feel slightly uneasy, like you're not really taking your time to phrase it. But generally, that was a lot better, and it was much cleaner between the right and left hand. So, I would practice it. I would practice it slurred, like long slurs. Just make sure that your left hand is really even and really accurate, and then you can add the separate bows to that. And the other thing is, again, you're you're this big on my screen, so I can't. I'm trying to look at your wrist, and your wrist is only this big, I can't really see it. But I think that you could be a little looser in your fingers and your wrist, and maybe not do so much with your forearm or even your upper arm in this. Again, just to keep it lighter and just a little bit more in the hand. You want to try just do a little bit of that. You don't have to do the whole exposition, but just maybe a few lines of that. Yeah, so like when you get to that place there where you make the echo, you could just relax, just let go and just kind of, just just let go. Don't drop the bow, but almost, and just play really light, like a real echo. An echo is not going to be as clear, so you can. I mean, I hate to use this word, but you can almost a little bit, like a little fake it a little bit, if you know what I mean. Just like you don't have to play it like so hard. The forte, yes, but then just relax. You need those moments within this piece, especially if you're going to play the whole thing with the chaconne. You can't get tight in this movement, and you should do both repeats, and then you got to play the whole chaconne. So if you don't find these little places to just let go, but that's where it becomes really helpful just to use the fingers and the wrist more. I thought that sounded better, and you seemed more relaxed in general. In that. So anyway, I think that's a good approach. And even when you start this movement, it doesn't have to be super forte. Maybe when you do the repeat, you play a little bit stronger, or when it goes on into the second part or something. But in the beginning, it's just, you've had this really profound Sarabande, this really profound chaconne after it. And in between is something a little bit lighthearted, even though it's in D minor. Okay? In terms of the Sarabande, one thing that I would say to you, technically or physiologically, looking at what you're doing, is that, and I see this a lot with chords, you're moving. I mean, I could demonstrate, but there's no room here. You're moving down when you do the chord. So like you go to play the chord, the violin goes down. Let me just get my violin so I can show you. I don't know. Can anybody see me, or are you the only one that can see me?
Yes, we have a pretty good view.
Okay, so hang on one second. Give me a second. There's these lights that are kind of annoying, but let's see if I do this. I'll take you over on the other side of the room here. Put you on an ironing board. How's that? There, that's better. So what I'm talking about is changed my strings yesterday, so they're all going down. It's this motion of when you're playing a chord. See, you move before you play, and the motion is good, but moving the violin down doesn't really help you because first of all, you're moving away from the bow. I mean, a classic example is the beginning of the G minor. If you go this way, each time, then I see that a lot where the violin moves down. If instead of moving down, I move a little bit, I bring the weight over to my right foot before I play. So in other words, I sort of step into the chord. Then, see, the G string is right there. I don't have to go find it with my arm going way back there. Also, my left arm, playing on the G string, if I come this way, my arm can be in this position. If I have to find chords, if I'm staying back here, I have to come way around to get the chord, if there's notes down on the G string. So it's just a very efficient way, and I'm also able to move, but I'm moving. It doesn't have to be that much. I don't even really move that much. But the important thing is I'm not going down. I'm not going away from the bow. The other thing that happens if I go down, is that the bow tends to slip away from the bridge, partly because I'm moving the violin away, but also because there's more gravity. It tends to slip down, and then I feel it slipping, so then I have to grab onto the bow to hold it, so my grip gets tighter, which I don't want. I want to be loose and relaxed in here for these chords, right? So could we just try that with that, trying to move in that? It's a little bit shifting your weight. You don't have to bring the violin, you don't have to turn the violin this way. It's just, you can use your body to do that. Yeah. How's that feel?
Feels good. It feels different.
It sounds really beautiful to me. I mean, you're a little bit self-conscious about which way you're moving and all. But if you move a little bit earlier, like on your up bow, it'll be even more natural. You're doing it sort of right at the last second. So try just doing that motion but a tiny bit earlier, even in the first chord, before your first chord. Even there when you're doing that long scale going down, come over a little bit this way. Then when you play the broken chord, you just move back. It's like you don't even have to do anything with your arm. It's just you'll come back to standing up straight, and it'll be perfect. Yeah, so if you go across the string, just go back this way, and I don't even have to move my arm too much, just a little bit. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Then it's also this is a dance as well, right? So I'm not saying you should be dancing around as you're playing it, but by bringing more of your body into it in a helpful way, it dances more, even in this slow motion. And I think with the beginning of the Gigue too, you can come over a little bit that way. It'll help you get started rather than trying to start from being really still. Just try the opening of the Gigue that way. A little. Don't go down. Don't go down with the violin. Just across. Yeah. Yeah. Down is no good.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a reason that hell is supposed to be down there, right? One other thing I was going to say about the trills in the Sarabande. You have a lot of tritones, right? With trills. Generally, the trills should be from the top in this period of music. However, in this instance, what you're trilling from is a perfect fifth, right? To the tritone. So in my opinion, at least one of the times, if you do the repeat, one of the tritones you did this way, you did it from the tritone. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like the fifth is not as interesting as the tritone. So in this one case, I might do more of the trills from the tritone rather than from the fifth. You can do the fifth maybe on the repeat or once in a while or something like that. But there's people say now, oh no, trills always have to be from the top, and I don't think that's really true. If the note the bottom note is spicier, then maybe that. Maybe I'd even bring that out a little bit more. Really hear the tritone. Okay. Just see if there was anything else. Go back to the music. You're taking you off the ironing board. The only other thing I was going to mention is whether you ornament or not is a good question. I think a little bit of ornamenting on the repeat would be nice, and I'm not comfortable with doing it a lot. But I mean, in a couple of places, for instance, here, this place we were just talking about, maybe on the repeat, maybe something like that, or later. I mean, little things like that you might consider doing on the repeat. If you don't, or even if you do ornament or you don't ornament, I think doing the repeats gives you a chance to do something different on the repeat, whether it's ornamenting, embellishing, or not. I would like to hear more differences of dynamic or even phrasing. For instance, this maybe the first time it makes diminuendo, but maybe the second time you do a different bowing, and because the bass line goes all the way to the G. Everybody always phrases it off on the A and then starts the G again. Maybe one of the times you do it differently. So, and my point is to mix it up a little bit, whether it's musical and or ornamenting, whatever. There's one other thing that I want to mention, and we probably should go on to the next person, is be careful that I don't hear slides. I don't think that it whether you play this in a romantic way or more in an early music way or somewhere in between, I frankly don't think it sounds great to play completely historical performance on a modern violin. I think if you're going to do it, you should do it on a violin with gut strings and a Baroque bow, and do it in a very live acoustic, because then it sounds really great. But whatever you do, whether romantically or not, I don't think that some of the slides that I'm hearing are good. For instance, I'm exaggerating, you didn't play it like that, but I don't want to hear that. I don't think that's good. I would just play simpler fingerings. I mean, that's, if there's a situation like that. There was another place in the coda. There were a couple that, where I am, like second to last line. No, yeah. Also, it's also slurred D da 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 da. The D sharp shouldn't belong to the D anyway. So just be careful with that a little bit, because I don't think that sounds good. You can be as expressive as you want with it and play it as romantically as you want, but just watch out for the slides. It's the slides down occasionally a slide up doesn't bother me, but I don't think you should do it down. Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so. Thank
Okay.
you so
All right.
much.
Good, good. It sounds very good. A lot, most of it sounds really, really excellent. A couple of things I was going to suggest. Um, in the passages that da da dee da dee da dee da da dee da dee da 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 dee da dee da da da, all those awkward passages, I hear the shifting when you go. I hear the actual shift when you go to another position with it, and I'm wondering if there's a way to hide that better. I mean, can you know the one where you start on in the middle? You have one that starts on D sharp, B, F sharp, B. It's I don't know which edition you have, but you know what I'm talking about. Can you just play a little slowly right there? Let me just watch it. Okay, so very important anytime that you're shifting that I don't hear it. So get the bow maybe out of the way a little bit. Do one more time because I'm not sure. Do it even slower once. Let's make sure that all the notes are right. It sounds a little bit like, are you going back to C flat in the middle? And we have an F flat, right? Like an open E. But do one more time. I just want to hear one more time. No, no, right there. That should be an E. It should be F flat again. All the Fs in that measure are flat. The second bar? No, no. Yeah. Right. And go on. Right. That's right. That's fine. Yeah, that's what I was hearing. A lot of people just use the open E string for that, but you're going across the strings, which is fine. But it should sound like E natural. But anyway, anytime you're shifting, like even if it's a half step from the C flat, you're coming down. You know, C flat, B flat, and then back up C flat. I don't want to hear that your first finger, in between it. Just really clean. Where's another place like that? Yeah, when you're playing the first time when you have that passage, can we go through that slowly? That's on the first page, like fourth line. It's in D major. Yeah, that's good. That measure, right where you just finished, you're playing the right notes, but I think the distance was between the C sharp and the B flat could be wider. Maybe the B flat is getting pulled up a little sharp there, but keep the B flat low. So I really hear that interval from the C sharp back to B flat. You see what I mean? Just in that, was that the sixth bar of that when you start on G natural. Good. And what I do right here, you don't have to do this, but I kind of like the way it feels is if you go da 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 down, up, down, and then start the next thing up bow. It's kind of nice. You want to just try that from that measure before the piano? So the last two eighths will be both down bow to the tip. Okay. Right there, for instance, when you come back, dee, dee, da, ya, to the D, dee, da. Is it possible not to shift on the D, but shift on the C sharp? Dee, da, da, ya. Shift there, because then you won't hear it. I always try to, when I want to hide shifts, I always try to shift on the half step if I can. Or if it's a place where you really want the lyricism of like a sigh, you do that kind of thing. But if it's a shift here and it's in between two third notes and then separate notes, I don't think I would want to shift there. So sometimes you have to, and you just have to get the bow out of the string so you don't hear it. But here you have another opportunity. Can you just try that bar without fingering?
Wait, sorry, say one more time.
Yeah, you're getting up into third position, right? Somewhere. I heard a shift back to the D.
Okay, yes, just making sure.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And yeah, that sounds fine. I think there's no retard marked here, right? You're just adding a retard. I think it's okay, but maybe I think it's too much. I think it's nice to. I would just do it at the end just to hold it up a little and then go on, but not a real retard, since he didn't write it. I don't think it needs it. If you want, you could do maybe a little more the time later in the piece, but in the beginning, I would do it a little straighter there. I think when you have the music that has the accents, da da dee da dee da 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 da, those accents could be a little more, a little sharper accent. These sound a little bit too lyrical to me. This place, ba da dee da, bim bum bum. Maybe a little more percussive. Like when you coming up, you have another passage like that, right? Can you just try that after the long A? Good, good. That's great. That sounds great. Also was really in tune. And that section we were just working on with the F flats, very good. Too many flats in that bar. Too many. The other thing I was going to bug you about, it's just a small thing, but at least I wouldn't do it both times, is, let's see, from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh bar, in the middle of that, you're doing the grace note as a glissando. I wouldn't do it, at least not the first time. If you want to do it and the second time it happens later, okay, but I don't know. It sounded funny to do it, to change it. Just do it just stay either in first position, or if you're in third position, just stay in third position there and then go down for the next thing, okay? Because that gliss is really a big deal, so I wouldn't, I would do it, wait and do it the second time as a kind of an ornament in a way of what you're doing. Then let's just work a little bit on the opening. Can you play the opening just up to where we're talking about, up to that next measure where it says al talone? Right, yeah. Da, da, dee, dee, da, da, dun. You know what I do there, because you have the third finger, it's awkward to get to the grace note. I switch to second finger on the grace note B flat and play third finger on the G. In other words, I go to fourth position. Do it slowly once. Yeah. Um, oh, be careful. I don't think you should hold the A on the second quarter. You did it twice. Hold just the top notes because you want to hear A, E, A, right? Do it one more time. The second bar sounds great. That's that same bowing that you're doing later when it goes to two naturals. That sounds really good.
From the beginning again?
Yeah. Yeah. I still hear the A on the second quarter. We go all the way to the E string. Just hold the E. Yeah. So I really hear really clearly just A, then just E, and then just A. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. This piece is in what key?
Or D major, sorry.
Right. D major, right? What does it start on? That's all on A, right? Right. So he's sort of playing with it. You look at the program and see Sonata in D major for solo violin, and the first thing you hear is like, wait a minute, what? I think there's a misprint here. But he's playing with us a little bit. But that's sort of why I want to make it really clear the A, E, A. I don't want any other notes in there because he hasn't really established completely the key and the harmony yet. Yeah, you don't really get D major until the da da dee da dee da dee da 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 da, right? Funny. It seems like such a simple piece in some ways, and yet there's some real surprises with it. Do you know that if you look this up in Wikipedia or in the compositions of Prokofiev, that it's listed as a sonata for solo violin or violin class? Did you notice that? Have you ever tried it? Have they ever tried it there? No. I haven't tried it either. I'm a little afraid to try it. It probably might be really loud but it could be fun. I don't know. I just like about 20 violins playing this. It'd be kind of cool, actually. Let me see if there was another spot that I wanted to see about. Yeah, can we just do the end? Oh, I know. I wanted to say one more thing. You know where the recap is, which is actually going back to the A major opening, where it goes back to two sharps after the middle section. Somehow, again, I think it's a joke. I think he lands on all those. You've got a lot of A's, right? Before that. Da da dum bum 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 ya da da ya bum 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 bum. You expect it to go. Finally, we're going to go to D. Well, what does he do? He stays in A, right? Right. So I would make a big thing out of that silly bar with all the A's by themselves, as if this is here it comes, guys. Here's the D major. Oh no, I mean, I just can't imagine he meant that seriously. It's so silly all of a sudden, right? Go back and show them what I'm talking about. Maybe go back to where you start playing A's. That's a couple of lines above that. Yeah, right. It's fun. It's more fun that way. You know, you make sometimes with music, if it seems weak when it's a great composer like Prokofiev, I, it's worth considering that maybe he meant it as kind of a joke because he certainly could have come up with something better than just a. It's like somebody honking their horn or something, right? So anyway, that was great. That was great. You really sold that A as something really important, which it really isn't. Let's just do the very end, and then maybe we'll have a little time for some questions and answers. Why don't you do from the same place where we were just playing, but now this time it's D. You have D major chord. Jump, bum, bum. Oh, you have A's again, but now it's going to go into D. You know where I'm talking about? Okay, so what I wanted to mention, that's great. That was great going into that. So this is a really important spot because now we really do finally get the D pedal on the bottom, right? And what does he write there? He writes the word espressivo. So I think here maybe play a little bit longer, not so percussive. Really, really romantic. And then even more the second time, a few lines later. Just again, it's a little bit of a joke, I think, a little bit tongue in cheek. This is not, the second theme of the first movement of Prokofiev's second concerto. That's really a beautiful espressivo theme. This is not really a beautiful espressivo theme, right? But he writes the word espressivo. So I don't know. I wish I had asked Oistrakh or somebody that knew Prokofiev what he meant by this. Did he want it? Maybe he just didn't want it to be too percussive, but I have the feeling it was more than that he wanted it to be a little bit overly espressivo. And he writes something that's a little bit silly, right? And then he repeats it after like 6 bars. He redoes it again, So anyway, make the most of it. Just have fun with it. Why don't you go right there on the espressivo? Good. So I would say maybe don't make too much retard too soon, but just maybe a little bit. You're sort of starting even the measure before a little bit. There's one wrong note when you start on the E flat, D, beam, da da da, bum, bum. That should be C sharp. The middle of the first bar, both times, right? Back where you started. I think you did it right there, but then they didn't, or maybe I just didn't notice it. And then it goes to C natural the next bar, right? Okay. And I think also make the top very expressive here, but maybe the bottom, all those D's and the da-da-dum could be a little more, a little stronger. It sounds like you're really favoring the top when you don't really need to because it's so high anyway, Play it very romantically, but I think the bottom could be stronger now, especially the second time when you have it. So that'll make it a little different. Maybe don't do it too much the first time, but then you can't really play much louder the second time, but you could play the bass part a little bit stronger. Like he adds percussion to it or something, if it was in an orchestra. Let's do that one more time, and then we'll stop. Wait. Dum, dum, bum, bum. Isn't it E flat, right? First note?
Oh, I think I played E natural. Yep.
No. Yeah, but the downbeat, isn't it an E flat?
Doing there. I'm shifting at a weird spot. Yeah.
No, you're playing C natural. Da. Da, da. Yeah.
I think I was starting in a.
You were one half coming out ago, yeah. Yeah. Your one, it still doesn't quite sound right to me. It should sound, uh, unless you got different notes. I don't know. Yeah. Also, there's another note that's a little funny. Oh yeah. So it's E. You know where I am. It's 2 bars before the whole thing repeats again. This is E natural, E flat, and then there's a natural at the end of the bar. So, yeah, just make sure. But that first going up, I just do it on the E string. Yeah, but then make sure you got. And then. Yeah, all those. Yeah. I think you've sort of got it in your head the wrong way, and but make sure that there's some weird notes in there, but they're right. Do it really slowly once, just make sure you got all the right notes. Right, and then again at the end here, don't hold the other notes, and then just one note on the top. Okay, no double stop on the top of those things, and really short that last note. I think it's good. Pop. It's a little funny, you know. I don't think this is the most profound piece of music that Prokofiev ever wrote. Not this movement, anyway. The slow movement is really beautiful, with the variation and everything. It's really brilliant. But this is not the F minor, the first sonata or either of the concertos. And so I think it's just fun and funny, you know. But it sounds really, really good. I think those things that we were talking about with really hiding the shifting is good, because it sounds really clean. That's the important thing with music like this, is that it's just really articulated well, and you don't want slides in there. I mean, that's the thing that Oistrakh was so amazing at in his playing. It's just always so clean and so etched, the articulation, and you don't hear you never hear him shifting unless he wants you to. It's never a mistake like that. So, but when I don't hear the shifting, it's really clean. I mean, you've got all the setup, the technique in left hand and right hand to do that, but just have to be careful with that. Okay? But great. So I don't know where, and I know Hasse is there.
Here, do you want to, maybe we can turn the camera around and we can do some Q&A maybe?
Yeah. Are you actually there, Hasse?
Yes, yes. Hi.
Hey! Wow, there's people.
Well, can you hear me now, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you. I think the last time I saw you was in some massive rainstorm. Do you remember that after the last concert we were all hiding from the rain?
I do. I remember that.
It was kind of crazy, and it took you, what, 4 hours to get home or something? Or
Something like that.
it was not good. Well, before, thank you so much for this masterclass. And before we open up to some questions, I just want to maybe tell you guys one little story from when I first met you, actually. But do you remember this? We came with my quartet to Hart. This is many, many, many years ago now. And
Yeah.
I remember you came into a room and I was supposed to have a lesson, and I think it was right when you guys were recording all the Beethoven quartets and playing 640 concerts a year, and
Yeah, right.
and I just remember that you came in and you were like, I don't really know when I have time to teach you, and you just gave me your planner, your paper planner, you just threw it to me. And you said, here's a pencil, if you can find any room in my schedule, I'll teach you. And and I just remember that moment as being just like, it shows so much about you as a person, and the like just how warm you are at like, you were really beyond busy at that point. And I remember we came kind of as a late addition to the program, and you're like, I don't know when I can teach you, but I would like to.
I'd like to, yeah.
Yeah. But
I only had an hour when someone.
Yeah, it was crazy, but I just remember that. Like,
That's
it
pretty
really
funny.
sums
It's actually slightly obnoxious, but I guess I meant it as
But I think it just shows your incredible, like, warmth as a person, and just wanting to be available for us as students. I remember was just amazing. All of you in the quartet, but especially you.
Well, yeah, we had a great time working with you, and that was really fun. Those years when we even when we didn't have time, but now it's like, oh my God, it's like the opposite. I mean, the last 15 months, we haven't played any public concerts. We played a few film things that we've done, virtual streaming stuff. But just 2 days ago, Saturday, I had my first in-person coaching with the Viano Quartet, and then yesterday with the Valas Quartet, and today I did a class with the two of them. That's where I was coming from when I got stuck in the traffic. But it was the first time, Saturday was the first time that I worked in the same room in person with a string quartet other than my own. And it was the first time for the Viano Quartet as well. So we were just sitting there, like, even before we did anything, we were like practically in tears, just how amazing it was to sit in the room together, So it's starting to feel better, like here in Detroit. Everybody, I think something like 98% of the audience have been vaccinated. And one advantage, I guess you could say, with the audiences that we play for is that they're generally older. Generally, and they're older, and then we have a lot of students who want to, young people like yourselves there, who want to hear us. But the older people generally are getting vaccinated, So it's starting to turn, at least if things don't get worse, I can see by the fall, I think we'll be able to be more, at least more
How
comfortable.
many, look how many people we have here. I mean, that's also a first. Like today,
Right. Yeah.
like we're almost 20 people in one room.
Right.
It's pretty amazing. So
Is everybody vaccinated?
I think more or less, right? Yeah. But now I just wish they came up with a vaccine for bad intonation. But I don't know when, since they do it so quickly with COVID, I don't know. But so I want to give you guys an opportunity to fill any questions you might have. So why don't you? Yes, Nola, you're gonna go.
And it really would help if you came up close.
Okay, I can come up. All right, so as
Wait.
a student, what is a skill you think we should learn in addition to learning our instruments?
How to make money? No, I'm just kidding. I think it's really important for any student, no matter what you're looking at doing with your life, whether it's music or art or business or science, to know as much as you can about the world, and especially when you're representing as a performer, you're representing music that was often written a long time ago, or maybe not a long time ago. Maybe it was written 10 years ago. Maybe it was written in 1785, if it's Mozart or Haydn. And the more you know about not only the composer's life and what was going on in their life at the time that they wrote the piece, but also what was going on in the world at that time. There's a wonderful book by H.C. Robbins Lannon. I think it's called 1791. It's the year that Mozart died. And it's a book, it's not just about Mozart's death, it's about what's going on in the world in 1791. And part of that year, sadly encompasses the death of Mozart. But it's a fascinating book to read because you just, we know these things. We know, yeah, Mozart died in 1791, or he was born then, and he lived he was born in Salzburg, and then he was in Vienna. But we don't really have a sense of the world around them at the time. So I think I was on a plane once coming out of Aspen, and I happened to be looking. Our daughter is an artist, and I happened to be looking at some of her art on my computer. And this woman was sitting next to me, and I noticed she kept looking at it. And finally, she asked me, whose work is that? And I said, it's our daughter's. And then we started talking, and she turned out to be a gallery owner. And I asked her kind of the same question that you asked me. I said, what would your advice be for my daughter? I mean, at that point she was in school, and I mean, other than like studying how to do art or even art history, what would you recommend? What would you say to her as a recommendation to focus on or to do? And she thought about it for a second, and she said one word to me. She said, "Read." And I was like, really interesting. And I didn't expect that. I thought, go to the museums, look at Picasso, study, Michelangelo, whatever. No, just read. So, yes, you have to broaden your horizon musically, of course. The more you know about music, the better musician you are. But I think a lot of people don't know enough about the world. And one thing that's been great this last 15 months is I've had a lot of time to read. I haven't really felt, honestly, in the beginning, I really didn't feel like practicing because I had no concerts, and I was it was depressing, for everybody. It's not just me. But I was reading, and the reading actually got me back to wanting to play, in a sense. I read this long biography, Swafford's biography of Brahms, and it just made me want to play Brahms so badly after reading about it. So I think the more you broaden your horizon, of course about music, but also about other things, know what else was going on artistically at the same time, in the art world, and read a book that was written in the same year that Beethoven wrote the Ninth Symphony, or whatever, just something that brings it together in some way. I think for me, that's made a huge difference in my own enjoyment and appreciation of not just music, but everything.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, thank you. That's
Right,
awesome.
that's a good question.
It's a good
Not,
answer.
not, a, not, a, not a simple question to answer.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm wondering if you have any exercises to improve coordination between the hands.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer. Are you all violinists? Everybody's violinists? Okay. I'm a big believer in the Rode caprices, the Rode etudes, Rode. Um, because for a couple of reasons. I think that first, first of all, they're very good music for etudes. You could perform them on a recital, and people often do. And my teacher, Oskar Shumsky, recorded all of them, and they're on YouTube. And if you haven't heard them, you guys should really check it out. It's pretty amazing. I think he was in his 70s when he did it, and it's pretty remarkable. And he did it because he played on the Rode Strat. His violin was the same one that Rode had. So, but the other thing about these particular etudes is it not only does it strengthen your hands, your technique, the quickness of your fingers, the quickness of your bow, and things like that. But he also plays around a lot with the synapse of your brain, in terms of the patterns and the way he kind of throws you off with a pattern, and then he'll give you a couple of measures that kind of sits in one pattern so you can kind of relax. But then there's one in particular. Hang on a second. I think it's number 8. See, right here. I never leave home without it. But it's if you've studied this one, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it plays around. I probably won't be able to play it very well because I haven't practiced it for a while. But it's that kind of thing. And then he goes into he starts slurring, and the string crossings are all weird, and you're relaxing a little bit, and then he changes the pattern, and it's as much for the brain as it is for the hands. And I find when I work on something like that, I work on it slowly, I work on it in rhythms, I do different slurrings than he did. I just find that my brain is just firing, much better from working on something like that. Also, Bach. I think that the patterns in the fast movements of Bach are very much the same thing. And Bach wrote those sonatas and partitas at least partly as pedagogical. They were in his mind a kind of violin etude, and he was experimenting with all these kinds of chordal techniques and fugal techniques and things. Sure, as compositions, they're astounding, but it was also kind of a very high level etude in a certain way. So if you take some of the patterns and some of the fast movements of Bach, it's the same thing. It's not just getting your fingers to move quickly and do string crossings, but it's really being able to process those kinds of patterns, and that for me really helps a lot. There's a film I saw, speaking of Oskar Shumsky, where he's preparing with his son for a recital, and he gets messed up in a passage in some piece. I forget what it was, some piece duo they were playing for violin and viola, and he stops, and he just goes, he's obviously like, he's just tired or something, and he just feels like his brain isn't quite like firing completely like I'm talking about. And he starts playing this etude, like about this tempo, like incredibly fast. And he plays like through a page of it, like, whoa, wow. And then he stops and he looks at his son like, yeah, I'm still here, It's like, I dare you to do that. It's kind of funny in a way. He sort of did it slightly as a joke, but it's like, wow. I mean, you just listen to it, you're like suddenly your brain is awake, So I mean that really helps me a lot. And the other thing that's interesting about Rode is that he talks a lot about slow bows, and you'll notice in the etudes, if you do study these etudes, be sure and do the original bowings. Maybe not necessarily in performance, because I think Chomsky doesn't. He changes the bow more. But Rode was a big believer in being able to really control the bow slowly and play a lot of notes, which is very uncomfortable to do. And he even talks about warming up that way with very slow bow, a minute to a bow. Try that. Like you try to do like the slowest bow you can imagine and time it. I almost bet you money that it won't be a minute. You'll think it's a minute, but a minute is really a long time for one bow. But he would talk about also doing that before a performance in order to settle his nerves, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know. It's not the Bible or anything like that, but it is interesting to. And in terms of the coordination, a lot of times it is the brain, it's not the hands. Another thing that really helps me with any kind of question of coordination between right and left is to practice in rhythms, and making it more complicated. In other words, if they're an even number of 16th notes, practice them in like da 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 or da 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 da. Especially if they're string crossings, because then the string crossing will be in a different place in terms of a fast note or the slower note. And also practice them down at the frog and at the tip and backwards and all this kind of thing. It's a lot of it is tactile, but a lot of it is also the brain. So I don't know if that helps, but it helps me as I get older to work on these kinds of things.
Well, thank you. That was great.
Well, I think, Phil, you've had a long day, and I think unless there's any more questions.
Can we get a picture with the soloist
and the screen?
That's okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to do a group picture with the people that played and you on the screen, right? Is that what you want? Yeah. So Cameron and.
If Cameron wants that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go up to the screen and stand next to a very flat Phil. Our virtual world.
I remember back when I was teaching theory in 2005, I had this person in my class.
Yeah.
The first time I had remote.
Okay, you can't see them, but they're right next to you.
They're right.
Oh, I can sense them.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Looks good. It's great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a beautiful picture, and you look, you look a little,
Thank you.
a little flatter than the rest, but
Oh, that's okay.
yeah. Phil, thank you so much, and
Yeah.
it's
Great
been
to
great,
see
and
you.
I think we made it work somehow. I mean, you could hear details, and
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think it at large kind of worked okay.
I could hear I could hear better than I could see because
Yeah.
they weren't on the full screen, but it was, I'd rather have it that way than with the sound.
Exactly.
on.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow with Vadim, but we'll learn from today, and
Yeah, I have a couple ideas.
yeah, sweet.
Good. Well, great to see you all. Keep well.
Thank you, Phil.
Hope to see you in person.
Yeah. Bye.
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 Thanks, Huss.